Whakarongo ki te kōpara tūwhārangi, whakarongo ki te tae papa ki ana ti hei moriora. It's very nice to be here, whānau. Thank you very much for having me. We do need to start with a disclaimer today. I understand that it's stupid, obviously stupid, to come to the oldest civilization on Earth and try and remind people that the stories that we tell each other are unbelievably old. But it's important to me, and that's what I'm here to do. Good luck. My name is Hone. I'm based at Planet Food Research in Auckland. At the moment, I'm writing up a master's thesis on a suite of vines by the name of aka that are important to Māori. We're not going to be talking about any of the results or the implications of this research. Really, what we're presenting here today is the rationale piece, why it is we decided to look at these things. Because if I handed you the report today, you'd read it and then you'd wonder why it is that we did any of that. Utterly incomprehensible otherwise. Okay, so here is kind of all we're going to talk about this masters, is we have a suite of 6 endemic species to New Zealand. The ones in green we could procure from nurseries. After myrtle rust got to New Zealand, nurseries were told stop stocking things that were susceptible to myrtle rust, so we couldn't get everything. We got half, and it's going to have to be okay. So these are epiphytic vines that live up high up in the canopy, and in saving them, there's no money to be made, and with biosecurity, you'd hope that maybe someday it might be able to save you some money, but biosecurity in the natural estate isn't ever going to save us any money either, because that's not how tourism dollars work. And so we're not doing this for money, and we're doing this for other reasons. And it turns out that these plants are really important to Māori, and so they're important to us. Should probably note here that while both of my parents are ethnically Māori, and that makes me ethnically Māori, I'm actually culturally an agent of the Crown. And so Māoris that serve the Crown, they get really good at this move where you leave your Māoritanga, your Māori-ness at the door. So these plants are important to Māori, and so they're important to us, and that's why we've decided to investigate them. So then, the first question is, what is a Māori? So yes, of course, the Māori are the First Nations people of New Zealand, but it's actually much wider than that. If you go to the Cook Islands or Tahiti or the Tuamotus and ask people what they are there, they're going to tell you that they're Māori. And so Polynesians, they kind of migrate east across the Pacific, and it's actually right at the end of the journey. Actually, they kind of hook a left and come back to New Zealand. They kind of venture west. And before they even made any of that movement, any of that journey, they'd occupied Tonga for about 1,000 years. A Māori person, so the label Māori is the generic word for like normal, meaning that we come from this world, the material world. We're not dragons or ghosts or the rain. We're Māori. And the oldest written use of this word to describe these people is in this document, Te Tiriti o Waitangi. So Te Tiriti o Waitangi is New Zealand's founding document. It was signed in the far north of the North Island on February 6, 1840, between the Māori who were there already and the British Crown, who the Māori asked to come in and govern the people that had come by boat to New Zealand in the last 50 to 100 years. The document kind of lays out in that exchange, what do Māori get and what do Māori give up? There are 4 articles, and the one article that's important to us today is the second one, which says that the Crown guarantee that Māori get to retain possession of their treasured entities or taonga. So what is a taonga? So these cultural treasures, they could be, the label is applied to a great many things, and it might be applied to ancestral lands or this knowledge system that I'm about to talk about, or even like trinkets, artifacts. Those pieces there in the top photo are tools used to make music, and really, like, why are they taonga? If you kind of push everything into a pile that's been given the label, it seems to me and everybody else that taonga, these cultural treasures, are the things that contribute to the well-being of a people in a place. And so if you're going to apply this thing to everything that it applies to, of course you're going to end up in a place where you give this label taonga to the indigenous flora and fauna that occupy our natural space. And of course, under Article 2, the Crown has guaranteed that Māori get to keep these as best we can do it. And we're not scumbags here at Planet Food, and we do try our best to make good on the promises we make, even if we made them 200 years ago. All right, so that was a bit of background information, And now I'm not even going to tell you two stories. I'm going to tell you about two stories and how it is that they contribute to the direction that I've taken my masters in. So the first one is about Tāne Mahuta, and Tāne Mahuta is, as Albie said, a feature in the Māori cosmogonical stories. So the cosmogonical stories are the ones that talk about the origin of the world and our place in it. And these kinds of stories allow our people to root themselves really deeply in the place. And the Māori cosmogonical story that features Rangi Papa Tāne, it's much older than the Māori people themselves. Big chunks of the story we inherit from Tonga, from Samoa, across the Cook Islands. So here's very basically the story. Is Rangi Nui, Sky Father, Papatunuku, Earth Mother, and don't ask me why it is that it's never Earth Father, sometimes it's Sky Mother, but anyway, Sky Father, Earth Mother locked in this tight embrace, and the kids are trapped inside, and it's hot, and it's cramped, and we don't like it, and we want out. So eventually there comes a council, everybody deliberates, they get to say their piece, and it's Tāne Mahuta, the eldest, who gets to make the choice. His choice is that we peaceably separate them. Other people wanted them dead, other people wanted them left alone. So the decision is to separate them. Post-separation, the mother gets sad, and everybody knows it. In order to make it right, Tāne fathers the plants, give rise to the trees, and clothes his mother in that, and it seems to make it all right. So Tāne Mahuta gives rise to the plants. Later on in that same story, Tāne Mahuta molds a woman out of clay, sneezes life into her, and so humans come from the same element in the story. And important here is that plants come first in the story, and then later on humans come, and because in pre-contact Māori society anyway, birth order is really important, and so the younger ones, humans, are subservient to the trees and basically everything else. Right, this one, there's another story. It's about Maui. Two things about this picture. This is Disney Maui, and it's not like my Maui is any less stupid than Disney Maui just because I got it out of picture books. And then there are a whole lot of new learning swirling around this thing, and so anything that you can catch and clip to something you already have is going to be good. And if you have a Maui that looks like this, use that. Clip these things to that. So in the Māori tradition, Maui is given the name, because Maui's got all these brothers and they're all named Maui. In the Māori tradition, Maui the hero is given the name Maui Tiki Tiki a Taranga. Taranga is the name of Maui's mother. The story is Maui is stillborn in grief. Taranga cuts off her top knot, her tiki tiki, swaddles the baby in that, sends him out to sea Moses style, and it turns out that 1, the baby's not dead. 2, the baby somehow, some way floats to the right beach. In the Samoan tradition, there is a hero by the name of Ti'i, who's responsible for basically the same things as Maui. It doesn't take a genius to know that tiki tiki sounds like ti'i, and my point is that if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it doesn't really matter whether we name that duck Maui. So here's the story about Aka with regard to Maui. So Te Tunaroa, the king of the eels, the eel king, in this hot pool, he violates the honor of one of Maui's wives. And in retaliation, Maui cuts him into pieces, scatters them all over the forest, and all of the different bits become different plants. He takes the tail of the eel king, he shakes it around the bush, and all of the blood that sticks to the tops of the trees, those become the aka. And of course, on the face of it, it's a story about how a man should behave around the wives of others. But allegorically speaking, this part of the story that we're talking about with the different plants, it seems to me to be an exercise where people come to a new place, they have all these new things, and they need more language, they need more context in order to be able to connect themselves to this new thing. Right. So we talk about the sociology of our science all the time, and it's important for you to have a robust one. And it seemed to me that it needed to be a sociology that wasn't invented by you, something that you can share, something that you can lean on. The lens that we take into our science, it directs where we end up, because that intention drives the processes, drives the work, drives the outcomes. This sociology, this Mātauranga Māori old thing, was given to us, the Crown, by our treaty partners. It enables us to share our work more widely. This science was taxpayer funded. We do have a problem where the taxpayer pays for science, They can't read it because it's not in language they understand. And even if they could, we've sold the rights to that to some publication house, and they're going to have to pay for it again in order to read it, and that's no good. And the scientific method is a very powerful tool. Really, 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 really powerful. And what I'm trying to do here is not squish mātauranga Māori and science together. I just know that science is a big, sharp, flaming sword, and I need to know that I'm carrying it in the right direction. And this lens helps me do that. Science can tell us what to do, which to do, but not why to do it. And this thing that I inherited from the people that I serve gives me a directive. You're going to do this for these reasons, and it's good. The science that comes out of it are rooted in old values, and really you can believe in them. Specifically, my work is rooted in the thing where we care for others, not just humans. And this lens has had us end up at a place where the science is really different than what it would have been otherwise. And probably without this Mātauranga Māori lens, it wouldn't have happened at all. And so just to wrap up, I'm doing a master's. We're looking at 6 Māori vines. We looked at what a Māori is, a culture that we share beyond New Zealand. We looked at the Te Tiriti o Waitangi, New Zealand's founding document, and how that gives us an obligation to protecting Indigenous flora and fauna. We talked about taonga, treasured entities. We talked about 2 stories from the pre-contact Māori mythos, one about Tāne, one about Maui. I think that using this lens is really good for my science. It allows me to share better, and it's good because it comes with a set of inbuilt directives. So that's what I've got for you today. 2 things. If you're going to take anything out of this, please understand that I love you all very much. And the stories that we tell each other are unbelievably old, and there's value in it. Thank you.